Imagine this. I'm standing in a dazzling ballroom in downtown Chicago, the historic Palmer House with its grand chandeliers casting a warm golden glow over the marble floors and ornate ceilings. The air is filled with the soft hum of jazz music from a live band in the corner, and the scent of fresh flowers and expensive perfumes mingles with the faint aroma of champagne being poured at the open bar. It's a crisp October night outside, with the wind whipping off Lake Michigan, but inside, 150 guests are toasting to family bonds and lasting love. This is my daughter's big family reunion, a celebration she's been planning for months. Then, without warning, a sharp slap cracks across my face, echoing like a gunshot in the suddenly silent room. My glasses fly off, tumbling through the air before shattering on the polished marble floor with a tinkling crash that seems to last forever. My cheek burns with a stinging heat, but the real agony is the sharp stab in my chest, a betrayal that cuts deeper than any physical blow.
The attacker is my own daughter-in-law, her face twisted in rage as she screams, "You selfish old hag, hand over your condo keys or get out of here right now." The room freezes in stunned silence. Nobody moves to help me. My own daughter just stands there, her eyes wide but her mouth closed, not uttering a single word in my defense. The pain in my heart is overwhelming, but here's the secret that nobody in that room knows. I'm not just a poor widow scraping by in thrift store clothes and an old rusty car. I'm sitting on a hidden fortune of over $10 million, carefully built and concealed over decades. And that slap? It's the final spark that ignites everything, the moment that changes my life forever. I'm Vivian Ross, a 70-year-old widow from the Windy City, and this is my personal story of betrayal, greed, and how I found the strength to fight back and reclaim my dignity. Buckle up, because it's a wild, emotional ride through the heart of Chicago and the darker sides of family ties. Let me introduce myself properly. I'm Vivian Ross, and at 70 years old, I've spent most of my life embracing the rhythm of Chicago, a city that's as tough and resilient as the people who call it home. My modest two-bedroom condo in the Lakeview neighborhood is my sanctuary, just a short walk from the expansive shores of Lake Michigan, where the waves crash against the breakwalls with a soothing, relentless power. The condo itself isn't anything extravagant. The hardwood floors bear the scratches and scuffs of years of living. The kitchen still has those outdated avocado green appliances from the 1990s that somehow keep chugging along. And my small balcony overlooks the bustling lakefront trail, where I love to sip my morning coffee from a chipped mug, watching dedicated joggers pound the pavement in all weather, their breath fogging in the cold air or sweat glistening in the summer sun. 3 days a week, I head to the local cafes in the area, like the cozy spots along Clark Street, where I bake my signature pies. Classic apple with a flaky crust, rich pecan drizzled with caramel, and my famous blueberry that always sells out before noon at places like Lou Mitchell's, drawing in regulars who swear by its tart sweet perfection. I drive a reliable but weathered 10-year-old Honda Civic. Its paint chipped and faded from the brutal Chicago winters that dump feet of snow and coat everything in salt. My wardrobe comes straight from the thrift stores on Belmont Avenue. Simple dresses and cozy cardigans that prioritize comfort over style, keeping me warm against the infamous lake effect winds. To the outside world, and especially to my daughter Emily and her husband Derek, I appear as just another widow eking out a living on Social Security checks and a modest pension, perhaps supplemented by my baking gigs. But that's the carefully constructed mask I've worn for decades. A deliberate choice rooted in wisdom and caution, designed to shield my family from the corrosive dangers of visible wealth and the envy it often breeds. This story really begins back in the vibrant 1980s, a time when Chicago was buzzing with energy, from the bustling trading floors of the Mercantile Exchange to the electric atmosphere at Wrigley Field during Cubs games. That's where I met my beloved husband, Harold, on a sunny afternoon game where the crowd was roaring as Sammy Sosa launched a home run into the bleachers. Harold, with his easy smile and quick wit, accidentally spilled mustard from his hot dog onto my jeans as he cheered, and instead of annoyance, we both burst into laughter. That moment sparked a connection that would define my life. Harold was a real estate visionary with an uncanny knack for spotting undervalued properties in neighborhoods like the Loop, River North, and even emerging areas like Lincoln Park before they became the hotspots they are today. He started small, flipping a rundown brownstone, and built from there, acquiring apartment buildings that generated steady rental income, commercial spaces leased to up-and-coming businesses, and even a few charming vacation cabins nestled in the scenic Wisconsin dells, where we'd escape for quiet weekends amid the pine trees and rolling hills. We always chose to live modestly, eschewing flashy cars or sprawling McMansions in the suburbs for a simple life that blended in with our middle-class neighbors. Harold's philosophy was clear and often repeated. Viv, money is like a powerful magnet for all sorts of trouble. Envy, lawsuits, opportunists. Keep it quiet and it'll keep us safe and grounded. By the time Harold passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack 15 years ago, leaving me alone in our quiet home with the weight of grief pressing down like a heavy fog, our carefully managed portfolio had grown to over $10 million. This included rental properties, pulling in a reliable $60,000 a month in passive income, diversified investments tucked away in secure accounts that no one outside our trusted advisor knew about. We had made a pact to keep it all a secret, not out of paranoia, but to protect our family, particularly our only child, Emily, from the kind of destructive greed that we'd seen tear apart other families we knew. Emily came into our lives in 1985, born during that legendary Chicago blizzard when the city was buried under feet of snow, stranding cars on Lakeshore Drive and shutting down everything for days. Harold and I bundled her up in our cozy apartment, marveling at this tiny miracle amid the chaos outside. We raised her with an abundance of love, but never with excess luxury, instilling values through simple joys, family outings to Navy Pier, where we'd ride the Ferris wheel and watch the fireworks explode over the lake, indulging in greasy hot dogs at Portillo's with extra cheese fries, and bundling up for Bears games at Soldier Field, cheering through losses that built character and resilience. She grew up believing we were just an average middle-class family. Dad worked in property management, handling paperwork and occasional site visits, while Mom baked at home, filling the kitchen with the warm scents of cinnamon and vanilla. But as Emily matured, graduating high school and heading to Northwestern University for her MBA, something shifted in her. She met Derek, a charismatic sales executive from the upscale Gold Coast area with his polished suits and ambitious dreams. They married in a small ceremony at a local church, but soon dove headfirst into a lifestyle that screamed excess. the American dream amplified to unsustainable levels. They rented a sleek $3,000 per month high-rise apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, drove matching BMWs that gleamed in the underground garage, and jetted off for ski trips to Aspen, where they post envy-inducing photos on Instagram of powdery slopes and cozy lodges. They hosted lavish rooftop parties in the trendy West Loop, complete with craft cocktails and gourmet appetizers, and flaunted premium box seats at Blackhawks games, rubbing shoulders with the city's elite. All the while, their debts snowballed faster than a Chicago winter storm, hidden behind the glossy facade of success. What Emily and Derek never suspected was that I had been their invisible safety net for years. When their credit cards hit the limit from extravagant dinners at Alinea or shopping sprees at the Magnificent Mile, I'd quietly arrange anonymous payments through Marcus, my trusted financial advisor, disguising them as unexpected work bonuses or promotional incentives. When their landlord sent eviction warnings for missed rent, I'd cover the arrears, framing it as a generous special discount from the building management. I even wired $20,000 directly to the fertility clinic for Emily's treatments, ensuring she never knew the source. All because I couldn't bear to see my daughter suffer. I convinced myself this was just a temporary phase, that they'd steady themselves, learn responsibility, and appreciate the values Harold and I had instilled. But deep down, I knew greed had taken root, its tendrils wrapping around their hearts, and I was about to discover just how deeply it had penetrated. The real trouble began bubbling to the surface about 2.5 years ago, on a mild spring evening when Emily brought Derek over to my condo for what she called a casual family dinner. I had spent the afternoon preparing my signature deep dish pizza, layering spinach, sausage, and gooey mozzarella in a buttery crust, just like the ones at Giordano's that we used to devour as a family. But Derek barely took a bite, his fork pushing the food around his plate as his eyes wandered the room, appraising every corner like a realtor calculating resale value. "Mom, this condo is way too huge for just one person," Emily said, her tone laced with a sweetness that didn't quite mask the underlying sharpness. "At your age, those stairs up to the second bedroom? What if you slip on the icy sidewalk by the lake during winter?" Derek nodded enthusiastically, adding, "Yeah, Viv, we've been looking at some fantastic senior communities out in Schaumburg, places with indoor pools, organized bingo nights, and shuttle services to the grocery store. You'd absolutely love the low-maintenance lifestyle." I forced a smile, offering them more pizza. But inside, my stomach twisted with unease. I'd heard that condescending tone before, and Harold's cautionary tales about opportunistic investors circling distressed properties waiting to pounce. As the months wore on, their comments grew bolder and more insistent, like a persistent drizzle turning into a downpour. "Your Civic is nothing but a rust bucket, Mom. It's downright dangerous navigating those snowy Chicago roads in that thing," Emily would say during our weekly phone calls, her voice dripping with feigned concern. "Why do you keep baking for those cafes? You should retire already and enjoy your golden years without the hassle," Derek would chime in during visits, his eyes always drifting to the balcony with its stunning view of Lake Michigan. "This condo is sitting on prime Lakeview real estate. You could sell it tomorrow and live like a queen in a smaller, more manageable place, with money left over for travel or hobbies." Every interaction felt like a subtle audit, their gazes lingering on the spacious rooms, the high ceilings, and the potential square footage. One particularly chilly evening, as we sat around my dining table with cups of hot cocoa, I overheard Derek whispering on his phone in the kitchen while Emily distracted me with small talk. Yeah, her place could easily fetch $800,000 in this market. If we can convince her to downsize, we could use it as collateral for our startup loan and finally get ahead. My heart sank like a stone in the lake, but I kept my composure, pretending not to have heard, all while the pieces of their scheme began to fall into place in my mind. I wasn't naive or unprepared. Harold had taught me well how to safeguard our interests. Drawing on his old network, I hired a private investigator, a discreet professional who had helped us with background checks on tenants in the past, to delve into Emily and Derek's financial situation. The report that landed in my mailbox a few weeks later hit me like a gust of Chicago wind, chilling and unrelenting. They were buried under $150,000 in student loans from Emily's Northwestern MBA, another $50,000 in credit card debt from their lavish lifestyle, and their tech startup, Derek's ambitious Uber for Chicago taxis, was hemorrhaging money with no investors in sight. They were 3 months behind on their $3,000 monthly rent, their luxury cars financed with loans that ate up most of their income, and collection agencies were circling like hawks. The extravagant parties, the designer clothes from Oak Street boutiques, the weekend getaways. It was all a carefully constructed illusion, propped up by debt and denial. And my condo, nestled in one of Chicago's most desirable neighborhoods, with its unbeatable location and views, represented their desperate lifeline, the quick fix to their mounting problems. Instead of confronting them head-on and risking a family rift, I chose to continue my secret support, convincing myself that a mother's love meant making sacrifices, even unseen ones. I increased the monthly transfers to $3,000, routing them through Marcus to cover their immediate bills, always disguised as random financial windfalls like unexpected tax refunds or company incentives. I quietly paid off their landlord to stave off eviction, framing it as a benevolent building-wide rent adjustment. Deep in my heart, I clung to the hope that Emily would snap out of this phase, remember the honest, hard-working values we'd taught her during those simple family dinners and outings, and turn things around. But I was deluding myself. Their greed was like a weed, spreading unchecked and choking out the good in them. The situation reached a boiling point when they announced their grand family reunion to mark their 10th wedding anniversary. "Mom, we're going all out and renting the iconic Palmer House ballroom downtown," Emily gushed excitedly over the phone one afternoon, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "We're inviting aunts, uncles, cousins from both sides, 150 people in total. It's going to be a night to remember, but we could really use some help with the initial deposit to secure the venue." Without hesitation, I wired $40,000 through Marcus, viewing it as an investment in family unity, never suspecting it was just another layer in their web of manipulation. But following that announcement, their pressures intensified dramatically, like a storm building over the lake. Derek started showing up unannounced at my condo with a slick real estate agent in Tao, claiming it was just for a quick insurance appraisal to make sure you're covered. Emily bombarded my email with glossy brochures for upscale nursing homes in the suburbs like Schaumburg or Naperville. "Think it the peace of mind, Mom. No more worrying about shoveling snow or maintaining the place." They'd casually leave stacks of senior living pamphlets on my coffee table during visits, featuring smiling elderly residents engaged in activities like yoga classes or bridge games, all designed to make me feel outdated and burdensome. Then, 3 weeks before the big event, they orchestrated their most audacious move yet, an outright ambush at my condo. They arrived one evening with Derek's parents in tow, a formidable couple from the affluent North Shore suburbs, dripping with designer accessories like Rolex watches and Hermes scarves, their attitudes as polished and unyielding as their appearances. We sat in my living room, the tension thick as fog off the lake, as Derek's mother began with a practiced concern. Vivian, we've been so worried about your health and well-being. Living all alone in this large place at your age, it's simply irresponsible and could lead to accidents. Derek jumped in seamlessly, pulling out a folder of spreadsheets. We've done the math for you. Sell this condo, which is worth a fortune in today's market, and move into a cozy one-bedroom assisted living unit for around $2,000 a month. The remaining proceeds could comfortably cover your expenses and even help us launch our startup to the next level. Emily, my own flesh and blood, nodded along like a well-rehearsed puppet, her eyes avoiding mine. It's all for the family's future, Mom. Derek and I are planning to start trying for kids soon, and we'll need more space to raise them properly. I refused outright, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. This condo is my home, filled with memories of Harold and our life together. I'm not going anywhere. Their faces darkened with frustration, and after they left, the air in my condo felt heavier, tainted by their unspoken threats. It was only later, through my investigator's updated report, that I learned the full extent of their scheming. They had been consulting lawyers specializing in guardianship laws, researching procedures to declare an elderly parent mentally incompetent in order to seize control of their assets and properties. Emily had been texting her friends brazenly, Mom stubbornly hoarding this prime piece of real estate. Once we get her committed or moved out, we can flip it and finally be set for life. They weren't merely after my condo anymore. They were plotting to dismantle my entire independence, treating me like an obstacle rather than a loved one. The night of the reunion finally arrived, the October air sharp and invigorating, with colorful autumn leaves swirling along the bustling Michigan Avenue as I made my way to the Palmer House. The venue was a breathtaking sight, its historic ballroom alive with sparkling chandeliers, elegantly draped tables in crisp white linen, and fresh floral arrangements perfuming the air. Guests mingled in tuxedos and evening gowns, sipping on signature Chicago craft beers and cocktails, the live band playing smooth jazz standards that evoked the city's rich musical heritage. I felt somewhat out of place in my simple black dress from Macy's, surrounded by flashes of Gucci and Prada, but I reminded myself it was about family. Emily and Derek worked the room like pros, all charming smiles and handshakes, but I could see the calculating glint in their eyes whenever they glanced my way. Then, the moment that shattered everything unfolded near the dessert table, laden with decadent cakes and pastries. Emily cornered me there, her expression shifting from festive to fierce, with Derek looming behind her like a shadow. "Mom, it's time to sign this," she hissed under her breath, thrusting a sheaf of legal papers at me, a power of attorney form that would grant them control over my affairs. "It's for your own good, really. Just hand over the condo keys tonight and we can all move forward." I shook my head firmly, my heart pounding. "No, Emily, this is my home and I won't be bullied out of it." Derek's face contorted with anger. "You're being incredibly selfish. We need that space for our future. Think of the family." Before I could respond or even process the words, Emily's hand flew out, slapping me hard across the face with a resounding crack that silenced the nearby conversations. My glasses dislodged and shattered on the marble floor, the shards scattering like my shattered illusions. The room spun for a moment as 150 pairs of eyes turned to stare, the music seeming to fade into the background. My cheek throbbed with a fiery sting, but the deeper wound was the betrayal, a raw ache in my soul that made my knees weak. That's what you get for hoarding everything and refusing to help, Emily screamed, her voice echoing off the high ceilings. A woman your age doesn't need all that Lakeview luxury. It's wasteful. No one stepped forward to help me. Not my extended cousins, not my old friends from the neighborhood, not even Emily's childhood best friend, who I'd known for years. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd. Poor old lady. She looks so fragile. She really should consider retiring gracefully. Emily, still fuming, smoothed her elegant gown and continued her tirade. You're not welcome here anymore. Derek and I need our privacy to build our life, and your condo is perfect for us while we search for something bigger. Tears welled up in my eyes as I knelt down on the cold floor, my hands trembling as I gathered the broken pieces of my glasses, feeling every stare like a dagger. But amid the humiliation, something deep inside me snapped, not in defeat or despair, but in a surge of clarity and resolve. This wasn't merely a physical slap. It was the culmination of years of subtle erosions, the final straw that broke the camel's back. For too long, I had stayed silent, lived humbly, and protected my family with my secrets and sacrifices. No more. I stood up slowly, my back straightening with a dignity I hadn't felt in ages, and whispered through gritted teeth, "You've crossed a line, Emily, one that can't be uncrossed." I turned and walked out of the ballroom, the heavy doors swinging shut behind me, the cool Chicago night air hitting me like a refreshing wave as I made my way to my parked Civic. Once inside the car, the engine humming softly, I pulled out my phone with shaking fingers and dialed Marcus, the financial advisor who had been with us since Harold's early days, handling our portfolios with unwavering discretion. "Marcus, it's time," I said, my voice trembling but determined. "Bring the documents to the Palmer house right now." There was a pause on his end, his tone cautious and concerned. "Vivian, are you absolutely sure about this? Once we reveal everything, there's no turning back. It could shatter your family forever." I glanced back at the ballroom's illuminated windows, where shadows of guests danced and laughter spilled out faintly. Emily and Derek no doubt reveling in what they saw as their victory. "I've never been more sure," I replied firmly. "Give me 25 minutes. As I sat there in the parking lot, the engine idling to ward off the chill, a flood of memories washed over me like an unstoppable avalanche, each one more poignant than the last. I thought back to 2.5 years ago, that spring barbecue in Grant Park where Emily first introduced Derek. The park was alive with families picnicking on the green lawns, the skyline towering in the background, and Emily beamed as she presented him, but I noticed how his eyes immediately judged my condo when we returned home, calling it quaint with a condescending smirk that set off quiet alarms. Family dinners turned into subtle interrogations. "Viv, you really should update your wardrobe. Those thrift store finds scream poverty chic in a bad way. Your Civic is a death trap waiting to happen on these icy roads." Their financial troubles deepened, and my secret payments kept them afloat. But every visit brought more snide remarks, more veiled demands, chipping away at my self-esteem like the relentless waves on the lakeshore. I recalled the day I caught Emily snooping through my desk drawers during a visit, her hands rifling through old property deeds and bank statements. "Just helping you organize, Mom," she lied smoothly when I confronted her, but the investigator's report later revealed the truth. They were $200,000 in debt, on the brink of eviction, their startup bleeding cash with no end in sight. My condo was their desperate golden ticket, and they were willing to do anything. Manipulation, emotional blackmail, even legal threats to claim it. Marcus arrived precisely on time, his black sedan pulling up under the parking lot lights, briefcase in hand as he stepped out with a grave expression. "Ready for this, Vivian?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with empathy. I nodded, my heart pounding not with fear, but with a fierce resolve born from years of quiet endurance. Together, we marched back into the Palmer House ballroom, the doors opening to a scene of continued revelry that abruptly hushed as guests noticed our determined entrance. The music faltered, and 150 eyes turned toward us once more. I let Marcus take the lead, his professional voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "Ladies and gentlemen, I am Marcus Thompson, Vivian Ross's financial and legal advisor, and I have urgent matters to address with Emily and Derek Ross." Emily's face drained of all color, her champagne flute nearly slipping from her fingers. "What on earth is this about?" Derek stepped forward aggressively. "Get out of here, old man. This is our night, not some sideshow." Marcus didn't flinch, opening his briefcase with calm precision and pulling out the stack of documents. "Emily and Derek, you are hereby notified that the $3,000 monthly transfers Vivian has been making to cover your rent payments, credit card debts, and personal loans are terminated, effective immediately." Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. "Additionally, the lease guarantee Vivian provided for your Gold Coast apartment is revoked. Your landlord will receive an eviction notice first thing tomorrow morning." Emily stammered in disbelief. "That's utterly impossible. Mom's broke. She barely makes ends meet with her cafe job." Marcus continued, undeterred, his tone unwavering. "Furthermore, the $40,000 deposit Vivian personally guaranteed for this entire reunion, the ballroom rental, catering services, live music, floral arrangements, and photography, is now withdrawn. The management will require full payment before anyone leaves tonight." Derek's jaw dropped in shock. You've been paying for everything all along?" Emily let out a wail that pierced the air. "But look at her life! A flower shop job, a beat-up old car. She's supposed to be poor." I stepped forward then, my voice steady and resonant, drawing on a strength I hadn't tapped in years. "Appearances can be deceiving, Emily. Your father and I built a real estate empire worth over $10 million. Apartment buildings, commercial properties across Chicago, vacation homes in Wisconsin. We chose to live simply because we understood that visible wealth attracts vultures, people who see dollar signs instead of human beings. I never imagined those vultures would come from within my own family." The ballroom erupted in a buzz of murmurs and whispers, guests pulling out their phones to record the unfolding drama. Emily collapsed into a nearby chair, her elegant gown crumpling as she sobbed uncontrollably. "This can't be happening! Our entire life! It's ruined!" Derek, his face pale and desperate, begged, "Mom, please, you have to fix this. The guests are watching, our photos, our reputation." I shook my head slowly, feeling a mix of sadness and liberation. "You made your choices, Emily. You chose greed over love when you slapped me in front of 150 people, when you plotted behind my back to take my home, when you saw me not as your mother, but as a convenient paycheck to exploit." Marcus held up the final document, his voice clear. "One last matter. Vivian has amended her will. All assets previously designated for Emily are now redirected to charitable organizations dedicated to protecting seniors from family abuse and exploitation." Emily's scream echoed through the high-ceilinged room, a raw sound of despair. "You can't do this to us. You're my mother. You're supposed to help." My heart ached at her words, but I stood firm. I am your mother, Emily, but I'm also a woman who deserves respect, kindness, and autonomy. You forgot that fundamental truth long ago. At that moment, the ballroom manager, a burly man in a crisp suit with a no-nonsense demeanor, approached with a sheaf of papers. Mrs. Ross, I've just received notification of the payment cancellation. Our contract requires full settlement of the $40,000 tonight. Who will be covering it? Derek turned to Emily in panic. We don't have that kind of cash on hand. Guests began to shift uncomfortably, some grabbing their coats and heading for the exits, while others continued filming, sensing the historic drama unfolding before them. Their meticulously crafted facade of perfection crumbled in real time, exposed for the hollow shell it was. I turned to Marcus with a quiet nod. We're done here. As we walked out together, leaving the chaos behind, I heard Emily's sobs and Derek's frantic pleas to the manager fading into the distance. The cool Chicago night air embraced me once more, carrying away years of accumulated pain and silence. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt truly free, not just from their manipulative grip, but from the heavy burden of my long-held secrets. In the 3 days that followed, my condo transformed back into the peaceful refuge it had always been meant to be. My neighbor Clara, a spry 68-year-old retiree who had witnessed many of Emily's tense visits from her adjacent balcony, stopped by each morning with fresh coffee and slices of Lou Malnati's deep dish pizza, her eyes filled with admiration. Viv, what you did took real guts. You're a hero in my book. My phone rang incessantly, buzzing with 42 missed calls from Emily alone, her voicemails evolving from initial bursts of anger. How could you humiliate us like that? To desperate, tearful pleas. Mom, we're so sorry. We didn't mean it. We're family. Please help us through this. Derek's parents even showed up at my door twice, pounding insistently and demanding that I fix the mess I'd caused, their faces flushed with indignation. But I held my ground, closing the door firmly each time, my resolve unbreakable like the city's enduring skyline. 6 months after the reunion, in a last-ditch effort fueled by desperation, they attempted to drag me into court, filing a petition to declare me mentally incompetent based on what they called my irrational and vengeful behavior. But Marcus and I were prepared, armed with an arsenal of evidence, incriminating text messages where Emily plotted to sell my condo behind my back, records of their inquiries into guardianship laws, and multiple videos from the reunion captured by guests' phones, showing the slap in vivid detail. Those clips had gone viral on social media platforms, amassing hundreds of thousands of views overnight, with comments pouring in from strangers across the country. Vivian is a total queen, standing up for herself like that. Shame on that greedy couple. They got what they deserved. The judge, a stern woman with a no-nonsense reputation in the Cook County courts, dismissed their case outright, slamming them with $30,000 in fines for filing a frivolous lawsuit and ordering them to cover my legal fees. The scandal made headlines in the Chicago Tribune, with articles detailing the family feud gone public, leading to Emily and Derek losing their jobs, Emily from her marketing firm, Derek from his sales position, as employers distance themselves from the toxic publicity. Now they eke out a living with part-time gigs, Emily slinging coffee at a chain shop in the Loop, Derek driving for a rideshare app, navigating the same city streets they once cruised in luxury. I didn't let their downfall define me. Instead, I channeled my pain into purpose. I founded the Ross Legacy Foundation, a nonprofit organization based right here in Chicago, dedicated to helping seniors combat family exploitation and abuse. We've assisted over 300 elders in just 2 years, recovering stolen properties, reclaiming drained savings accounts, and most importantly, restoring their sense of dignity and independence through legal aid, counseling, and community support groups. I poured my heart into writing a book, Hidden Fortunes, A Widow's Fight for Dignity, which climbed the national bestseller list, its pages filled with my raw experiences and practical advice for others in similar situations, all royalties funneled back into the foundation to expand our reach. I've shared my story on local platforms like WGN News, where I sat under bright studio lights discussing elder rights, at forums hosted by the University of Illinois at Chicago, engaging with students and faculty on family dynamics, and even testified before lawmakers in Springfield, advocating for stronger protections against financial abuse of seniors. My journey has become a beacon of hope for those who've been silenced by their own loved ones, inspiring letters and emails from across the country, sharing similar tales of betrayal and resilience. Do I miss Emily? Oh, how that question tugs at my heartstrings. I miss the innocent little girl who made elaborate snow angels in Lincoln Park during winter storms, who wrapped her arms around me in tight hugs after every Bears game, win or lose. But the woman she's become, twisted by greed and entitlement, I barely recognize her, and that realization brings a profound sadness. Last year, she reached out via text with news that pierced my soul. "I'm pregnant, Mom. Please don't let your grandchild grow up suffering because of this." It was a gut-wrenching moment, tears streaming down my face as I pictured a tiny life caught in the crossfire. I responded by setting up a trust fund for my grandson, Liam, to cover his future college education, administered strictly by Marcus to ensure it's used wisely. But I replied to Emily with measured words. Earn back my trust through genuine respect and change, not guilt or manipulation. She hasn't contacted me since, leaving a void that aches, but I've learned that sometimes love means setting firm boundaries to protect your own well-being. This chapter of my life isn't defined by revenge or bitterness. It's about justice, about illuminating the harsh truth that greed exacts a heavy toll and that dignity knows no age limit. In a city like Chicago, where the winds can shift directions in an instant, carrying change on their gusts, lives can transform just as quickly. If you're out there facing similar betrayal from those you love, listen to my words. You are not alone in this struggle. You have every right to stand tall, to set unbreakable boundaries, to demand the respect you've earned through a lifetime of sacrifices. And sometimes, the most profound act of love is letting go of those who persist in harming you, allowing space for healing and new beginnings. So, what do you think of my story? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. Have you ever faced family greed or betrayal? Share your experiences and let's support each other. If my journey inspired you even a little, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more true life stories that touch the heart and spark change. Check out the 2 related tales linked in the description for even more drama and empowerment. If you want to help keep these stories coming, send a super thanks. It means the world. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the Windy City, with love and respect. Until next time.